Some students could not afford the Broadway ticket, Six Flags, or the hotel and the bus, a 2-night overnight excursion to Washington, D.C. to see the monuments. If this is an issue in my school, how pervasive is it elsewhere? So I thought of the Tripp Foundation years ago, but being a teacher, you're planning day and night. I just had no time to build something like that, because I knew, just from my professional experience, if you're going to start a business, you've got to be practically all in. But I was all into teaching at that time, and I knew that I'd be making a sacrifice on either end. So I just put it on the shelf for a while. But while I did that, I got some of the legal stuff together. Job one for us was credibility, for everyone that we had reached out to. One of my first tasks was to try to get that gold seal of approval from one of the nonprofit rating agencies. So we got a gold seal of approval from Candid. So that said, these guys are financially legit, put that up on the website. We exceeded our goal for Giving Tuesday, exceeded our goal for the end of the year.
Welcome to Mission Control. At Peralta Design, we launch brands. But for now, let's launch right into this episode.
3, 2, 1, 0, 0, and liftoff.
Welcome, Mr. Lidj Lewis from the Tripp Foundation.
Thank you, Ramon. Really appreciate it. I got to say, I love that intro, especially the guitar, little James Brown lilt going on.
That's George.
You met our resident rock star.
Very own George Ramirez. That's an original, and I love it. As soon as we were looking for music for the intro, and as soon as I heard the track, I was like, this is the one.
That's the one. Burn out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like a little special ed vibes in there somehow. The rapper.
Right.
And
no one knows what you're talking about.
You have a whole generation of listeners. Got to clarify that.
I got it made. Yeah.
Not the curriculum. Right?
No, exactly. Let's clarify that right away. And I want to introduce Jorge.
The man with the plan who's always rocking the tan.
All right.
Okay. And Kevin on the soundboard.
Afternoon.
Kevin.
Yes, Kevin, the man of, he's like Madonna or Prince is just Kevin.
Uh-oh.
Right.
Okay.
Kevin Atterbury. For those that are looking for him, he's here.
They'll never find
He's
me.
on the lam. So, guys, big activities going on. Some big announcements in the world of sports. That we got to recognize. Your guy Hamilton,
My man, Lewis Hamilton.
Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Sir Lewis Hamilton. That's right.
He's been knighted. It's been officially knighted.
He's been knighted. Not only that, but he won in the UK where he's from. And they named one of the straightaways after him already too. So talking about being a legend in your own time.
Yeah.
The part of the racetrack is already named after you, but. Made history. This guy won. He won the only racer in the history of F1 to win a race after they've completed 300 Grand Prix. It's never been done before because at that point, the racer you just lose your edge and you haven't been able to perform and it just never been done. Even the greats like Michael Schumacher. And for this guy to pull it off, I mean, he was just in tears.
Yeah,
you could just see the emotion. And the first thing, he went out, he hugged his dad. It was like this incredible moment. You could just see the whole country seems like it was united behind him for the home race.
And the significance of switching brands too, right?
Right. So he's at it's his last race in the UK with Mercedes. He's going to Ferrari next year. And it's just this huge, going
out with a bang.
Branding is what we do. Exactly.
Do you think he is the GOAT?
It's the GOAT.
I mean, it's one of those things.
F1.
He also, he broke a record for most wins at a single track.
Oh, yeah. 9. That was the other thing where, people have talked about Schumacher as the GOAT as well, or in contention for it. Mm-hmm. And he has the most wins at a single racetrack ever, which he set as well. So the fact that he broke both records, and I think he still has that fire, and he talked a lot about, and I think a lot of our entrepreneurs can empathize with this, where sometimes you wake up in the morning, even us, right? We've been around 15 years. And sometimes you wake up in the morning, especially after meeting some trial or tribulation, you ask yourself, am I still good enough for this? Mm-hmm. Am I still competitive? Do I still have the edge? Do I still have the drive? And you question yourself.
Yeah, imposter syndrome's real.
Exactly, imposter syndrome. And even the greatest of all time can have imposter syndrome. So you're not alone. You know what I mean? These are those lessons where But if you keep at it, and he would say every day he'd still, light that fire in his belly, train, put in the extra work, and was able to accomplish something that nobody ever had after everybody doubted him. Everybody said he was washed, he was finished. And look at it. So persistence and consistency is so key.
Yeah, and I just also want to shout out Eritrean from Eritrea, Africa. Eritrean cyclist Biniam Girmay makes history as the first black rider to win a Tour de France stage.
Wow.
144-mile stretch on a bike.
I can't even imagine.
140. That's just one leg, and he won and made history. Only 24 years old, but just he actually became the first rider a couple of years ago to win a Grand Tour, which is when you win 3 major 3-week races: the Hero, the Tour, and the Spanish Vuelta. But now this one's huge. This is a Tour de France, so beast mode. And congratulations, he dedicated it to all of us, as it's quoted in this article.
Wow.
Website called BecauseOfThem.com. I found that story, and it's just wild. I mean, talk about heroes, making history against all odds. And also, I want to segue over to the local heroes, the Swanstons, Michelle and Andre. We can't reveal the date, but the date is coming where we're going to reveal the brand that we've worked so diligently on, and we're excited to share. The first black-owned MLS expansion team, MLS Next Pro team, future MLS team, but a professional soccer team coming to Connecticut.
Nice.
It's pretty exciting.
Very nice.
And in anticipation of that, we need to get our website horsepower up, which brings up a topic for a lot of small businesses when they make a big splash or run a campaign that may be driving traffic. Maybe, Jorge, you could shed a little bit of light on how that affects your performance and maybe why you should consider increasing that horsepower like we are.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to you get what you pay for. And we've talked about this a little bit briefly, but when you talk about investing in your business, in your web presence, you want to make sure that you can be able to handle everyone who wants to come visit, right? It's similar to just, we talk about it in the terms of, we call it server load, right? So think about how much weight you can put on something before it breaks. And every single visitor that you have and every concurrent visitor, so that means simultaneous visitors, puts more strain on it, especially if not only do you have visitors, right? You're going to have people who, once they find out about you, let's say you meet somebody at a networking event or you have a press release, something to that effect where you have a bunch of people coming in all at the same time, a speaking engagement, you're going to have people visiting, and then not only just visiting and viewing the information, but you want someone to take action that's going to put more load on it. Mm-hmm. A visit is already a little bit of load, but as soon as you want them to make multiple clicks, to make a purchase, to fill out a form, that's putting more load onto the website itself. So you have to be able to withstand that. So one of the things that we have to look at is you basically have to do an estimate. You don't want to blow out your whole budget by getting the maximum thing that you possibly can, but you have to realistically think about how many users is this potentially going to hit, and how many users can I withstand currently.
Now there are some plans that I know Amazon has, like a sliding scale. I think with some of our clients we have some of these hosting plans where if the traffic increases, it kind of just scales with it. So
Amazon is a good example of being able to set up something called an elastic load balancer. It basically just means, like we talked about load before, how much weight are you putting on those shoulders? Elastic just means, hey, as I'm putting more weight on, I can call in more reinforcements. I can be able to say, all right, rather than having, let's say, think about it like you're pulling a cart and you have a team of oxen. Instead of it being just one really big ox who's pulling the heavy cart, now you're splitting the load between multiple oxes. So that way it can equally distribute it. Think about when you're moving, you know what I mean? When you need to have your friends over and, you're providing beer and pizza and they're helping you move your bed and your couch or whatever else, that team lift is the biggest difference. And the elastic load balancer essentially lets you say, all right, as the load gets heavier and heavier, we're going to send in more support. So that's definitely something that's helpful to have, and something that, you know, we're going to be investigating as well.
Absolutely. And it's definitely something that I think it may get overlooked with small businesses that are looking stay lean, you know, during that startup phase. I think everyone has to start somewhere, but if you do anticipate traffic or a major event that's going to bring folks to your page, you know, major press release, some sort of event like taking a bunch of kids to South Korea, as we're going to find out, you may want to increase that horsepower. So we're going to dive in and learn more about Lidj Lewis and the Trip Foundation right after these words.
Guys, if you enjoyed anything on the show today, found anything of value, we would appreciate it if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us grow, helps us promote other businesses, and help us launch your brand.
Thank you, Ramon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Welcome. I can't wait to learn all about this new nonprofit, the Trip Foundation. But take us back. Tell us the story. How did Lidj Lewis come to be?
All right. Well, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. All right. So Brooklyn in the house, as they say.
It's Brooklyn in the house.
Yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I was actually born in Harlem, but we were living in Brooklyn at the time. But my mother, you know, always wanted to go to Women's Hospital, which was, you know, in Manhattan, you know, to have her children. But so I was born there and came back to Brooklyn, you know, and have, you know, older sister, you know, she's not with us anymore. But younger sister, my dad, also not with us anymore, but my mom's still with us as well. But, you know, growing up in Brooklyn was a really cool experience. Now, as far as, you know, my dad is concerned, he was a self-described, you know, Pan-Africanist. He was very, you know, conscious as to who he was and who his children were. And so he gave all of his children African names, all right? And Lidj is the name of an Ethiopian emperor, you know, way, you know, back in the day. And it's also one of Haile Selassie's middle names as well. I'm still trying to live up to all of that, but
but it does plant a seed,
there.
right? It does plant a seed where you
absolutely,
like you felt like I got to live up to this name.
Absolutely, and one thing that it did is that it gave every one of us, you know, myself and my two sisters, an immediate sense of identity.
Yeah.
All right. Back in my day, it wasn't popular to, you know, call someone black, right? It was colored or Negro or whatever, but he insisted on that. And, you know, we celebrated when, you know, we saw ourselves on television. We celebrated when a teacher in our classroom wound up looking like us. All right. So that helped shape me and my mindset, and that sense of identity and culture and responsibility. I carried that through not only my personal life, but also through my, you know, part of my professional life as well. When I began teaching in the Bronx, and I was teaching in the Bronx for 11 years or so.
Wow, what inspired you to do that? Just
well,
your dad?
I'm not a career educator. Let me just say that right off the bat. I spent most of my time in an industry like where we are right now in the studio. And when I was in college, I wrote a paper called Black Radio's Responsibility to Its Listening Audience. And I went out to WWRL, you know, for some of the old heads in the audience who remember that, out in Woodside, Queens. It was called the Sweet 16, and they played a lot of the soul music, you know, James Brown, Supremes, and Temptations, and so forth. So I went out there and met with the program director, Sonny Taylor. And I'll talk about Sonny a little bit in a minute. And went to the newsroom to interview him, or went to his office to interview him, and he told me about an internship down in the newsroom. And I said, yeah, I'm interested. And he said, sure, okay, great. So went down into the newsroom and met the staff down there. And lo and behold, I was able to do everything that they did except go on the air because I wasn't a member of the union. But I went out to the street and I, you know, covered stories like regular reporters do, had my microphone with the logo and everything like that. Interviewed folks from, you know, fires to news conferences to what have you, and came back, wrote up the copy, cut the tape, and, you know, the anchors, you know, read it on the air.
Nice.
Yeah, and so from RL, I went to WNEW Radio, big band station, worked there as a desk assistant, just, helping the anchors, tear copy and,
So
cut
you got to
tape and
tell
stuff
us how
like
to
that.
make, how to improve the show. You're
Old professional.
we're the amateurs here. You're the pro. Seasoned vet.
And is this something that you always wanted to do, like as a child? Did you say to yourself, "I want to be in media" growing up, or was that something that came later?
No,
in life?
and I think that's a good point. I kind of like took life as it came
Yeah.
and took advantage of opportunities as they opened up. When I was in college, I was majoring in communications, and I liked writing. I liked long form journalism. But the job at the radio station, the internship at the radio station, just came by chance. But I remember I had a professor in college, Lorraine Dusky, and I won't mention her because she deserves the props, who said, and this was a magazine writing class that she taught. And she said, you could do this. You could do this. And, I did have fantasies or ambitions or whatever to one day writing for the New York Times Magazine, because that's a publication that we read pretty regularly in the household, and I always enjoyed the long form articles there. But lo and behold, I went broadcast instead of print. So the trajectory from RL to NEW Radio, and then I went to ABC Radio as a news writer there, and then from ABC to CBS Radio
Now
to
you're
work
stacking
on
the
a
credentials,
on a
one
business,
after the other, after the other.
work
Wow.
on a business show, and then from there to CNBC as an associate producer, then a producer and a supervising editor.
Yeah.
And then to MediaLink, a company that specialized in broadcast public relations. And that's where the nexus between media and branding, came together. And also, I got my MBA during that time at CNBC. So I went to MediaLink to build their radio division because they were just doing video distribution at the time, not radio distribution, but they wanted someone with an MBA and someone who understood radio at the same time. And I applied, got the job, and built the radio division from scratch. Studio just like this with soundproof walls and microphones and so forth. That was a good run. 10 years. Learned a lot about management. Learned a lot about marketing. Learned a lot about client service. So don't regret that at all. Then the economy started to turn. 07, 08. Company, more or less, went under or transitioned into something else, and then I started substitute teaching up in New Rochelle. And I said, I kind of like this.
Being around kids.
Being
again.
around the kids, yeah, right,
influencing
exactly.
them.
In high school up there, and there was something about taking my professional experience and transferring what I knew and what I learned and what I knew about the world outside the classroom that I thought would be valuable in the classroom. So I said, I think I can do this. But at the same time, I saw some of the inequities going on in education, particularly as it pertained to young people of color in urban areas. And I said, I would like to try to do something about this. So I applied to go to Teachers College, Columbia University. But at the same time I applied, I also got a job at Bloomberg Television, working as a freelance copy editor. So those things happened at the same time. And I worked for Bloomberg, I guess, for about a year or so. But halfway between that, Columbia said, okay, you're in. I said, oh, wow. And I basically had just forgotten I had applied, right? I said, what am I going to do now? Take a term and drop it? Not take a term and drop it. Do I leave Bloomberg and go back to school? I wrestled with that decision for a month or so, but I kept getting in these signs that I should go to school. So I said, oh, all right, okay, forget it. I'll go. So I just pinched my nose, jumped in, took the job. Went to school, went to Teachers College, and the rest was history. My first year was at a middle school in the Bronx, and I quickly realized that I'd rather teach older students.
Middle school is the absolute worst.
Middle
grade.
school is the toughest ever.
They hate everything.
Is this true? Because you go from being a kid to still being a kid, but thinking that you're grown. And that transition is such a
It's
stark.
tough.
Yeah.
Whenever I do like the career days and it's middle school, it's like the worst audience you can have. They just could care less. They don't give anything back. You're just giving, and there's no. But yeah, I can see that. I mean, we love all kids, but that age group is tough.
Right. I realized I needed to teach older kids. You know? So I
Have
got
a conversation.
Right, exactly. So went to a high school in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And spent 10 years there. All right. So 11 years teaching altogether. And taught mostly seniors. And that was my favorite grade to teach.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're just about to step out into the world. Okay. So I taught economics and global history and participation in government. All right. And particularly with participation in government and economics, there's a real connection there. You really can't have one without the other. You don't have one without the other. There are economic factors that influence government and then vice versa. All right. But I also wanted to show how this affected their lives as well. And what are some of the issues that they are facing or perhaps will face, when they step out into the real world. But at the same time, in teaching, I mentioned a second ago about inequity. All right, so there's educational inequity. All right, but there's also, as we know, the wealth gap, affecting our communities. And I saw this firsthand as a teacher, whereby some students could not afford to go on certain trips. Right, could not afford the Broadway ticket. Right, could not afford the ticket to Six Flags or pay for the hotel and the bus to a 2-night overnight excursion to Washington D.C. to see the monuments. Even one instance not having to do with the trip, but guys on the cross country team were running cross country in their basketball shoes. So I said, if this is an issue in my school, how pervasive is it elsewhere? All right, so I thought of the Trip Foundation years ago, but being a teacher, you're planning day and night, weekends. I just had no time to build something like that, because I knew, just from my professional experience, if you're going to start a business, you've got to be practically all in. But I was all into teaching at that time, and I knew that I'd be making a sacrifice on either end. So I just put it on the shelf for a while. But while I did that, I got some of the legal stuff together.
Right.
I registered the name, the Trip Foundation, so it's a registered trademark. In the process of registering our slogan. I won't mention it now because I want to register it.
And what's the story behind the name of the foundation? How'd you arrive at that? My background, just like with Ramon here, is marketing. I knew media, understood media, knew the power of words, and images, and wanted to keep it short. Wanted to make it so that people could remember it, easy to remember. And it was just obvious trip. I want kids to take trips, so there's Trip Foundation.
For anything.
No. It's just.
But it's literally comes from your real life experience of seeing those kids not being able
to go on those trips. Yeah, exactly.
Opening that up,
and they're life changing.
Right, exactly. So so that is the genesis of it. When I retired from the DOE a year ago, June 2023, and now that gave me the bandwidth to really start to work on it. So in December 22, 6 months before I left, I got the 501c3 from the IRS. So that was the green light to start pulling things together. So immediately I started pulling some of the infrastructure together, tried get the website, the documents like for the board.
Right, because now you need an impact report every year.
Exactly. And not only that, I needed someone with legal background to look at the documents I was pulling together to make sure that they were legit. So I did that. So yeah, you know what startup costs are and what they what involve. So I pumped a lot of my own money into that because obviously I'm not raising anything yet. So this is all part
Seed
of my
capital.
startup costs.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well, everything has its time, for sure.
Right, true. And I think that the timing in this sense was right. In 23, in September of 23, that's when we officially launched in terms of social media outreach and, learning friends and family. Family, they were the first ones to kick in. My cousins were the first ones, to make a donation. And then my former colleagues and friends, started to contribute. We focused on Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is that Tuesday after Thanksgiving. So you have Black Friday, of Cyber Monday, and then you have Giving Tuesday, and that's when the entire nonprofit world.
Yeah, it's like the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
nonprofits.
Yeah, right. Super Bowl, Christmas, whatever. So
And that's where the challenge with you becomes brand awareness because everybody is going after the dollar.
Absolutely. I'm glad you raised that point. So because it reminded me to mention this. Job one for us was credibility. All right. Had to make sure that we were credible, for everyone that we had reached out to. So one of my first tasks was to try to get that gold seal of approval from one of the nonprofit rating agencies. So we got a gold seal of approval from Candid. All right. So that said, these guys are legit, financially, legit. So, put that up on the website. And so we focused on Giving Tuesday. We exceeded our goal for Giving Tuesday and then exceeded our goal for the end of the year. All right. And then the spring and all that, most of that money, 90% or more of that money came from individuals. So now we're focusing on family foundations, corporations. And we hit a ball out the park this spring where Disney invited us to join their corporate giving program.
Wow.
Yeah. So any employee at Disney who wants to contribut, Disney will
You got to
match.
start hitting up some of these airlines like
Yeah,
Boeing.
yeah,
Boeing
right.
comes to mind. They could use some positive PR.
True.
Let you guys fly free or something.
Yeah.
So what
That's
was
part of the strategy.
What was the first trip?
Oh, okay. So let me start with the first project because I don't want to,
let's go
make them many.
chronological.
Yeah, right. So the first project was a school in the same building where I had worked. And
This was like your first pilot program.
well, yeah, the first one we funded, the first school that we funded. Now they were taking a small trip, within the neighborhood, but it was a community service type of trip. They wanted to clean up the park.
Okay.
And so, but they needed equipment for that. So I saw it, and I saw it on Donors Choose. Donors Choose had been a great vehicle for that, and fully funded it. Boom. And so teachers, wow, great, fully funded. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So the kids went on the trip and they sent back pictures of picking up the garbage, and folks from the community joined in.
Wow.
What's better, right?
Right.
Exactly. So that was a very positive thing. And then I saw another excursion. The South Bronx Academy for Applied Media. All right. They wanted to take a trip to South Korea. Kids needed supplies, for that. Boom, fully funded that. So I wasn't playing around.
Wow.
I said, if I'm going to roll with this, I'm going all in. All right. So I'm not just going to send you $50, right? I'm taking care of your entire need right here. So they were just totally amazed. Thank you. They took the trip in February, this past February. Kids had an amazing time, life-changing trip. You can read some of the testimonials on the website. Exactly.
Is the selection process something where you're just inspired in the moment? Is there something that it doesn't sound like they're at the point where they have to apply yet? I'm curious about how does that work?
Right. Teachers come to us.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't recommend where you should go or book anything. We just write the check. All right. So that keeps our operations very, very lean, because you don't need 5 guys to write a check. So yeah, we just so they come to us. We take a look at where they want to go, what the financial need is. We ask that all the children sign media release forms, because you might want to use some of that content on our website and social media and so forth.
That's an important thing also for our listeners to think about that.
Especially,
I don't know how many small businesses think about that, where you want to be able to document all of this work that you're doing. And if you don't get those releases, then you put yourself at risk there, and you want to make sure that everything is on the up and up as much as possible, that you have access to those things, and that you're doing it with intention, that it's not it's not by accident. So it's great to hear. Right. And all your experience in media, I'm sure, just makes all this that much stronger.
Yeah. So those are the first 2 trips. Okay. You want me to keep going? We'll tell you about the others, or what do you want to do?
I would like to hear about a kid, or like a life-changing moment, because I mean, some of these kids probably never even been on a plane.
Right. Exactly. And remind me of that point, because there's something that we're we're working on now as well to help with that process. So these were life-changing trips, for these kids. For the kids who went to South Korea, had never, traveled on a plane, much less outside the country, much less outside the city.
Transferable life skills, like how do you behave in an airport,
absolutely.
on a plane,
absolutely, all of that, all right, and not only that, but learning those same things from other cultures.
Right.
How do other cultures share, what they know and teach, right, in terms of etiquette and integrity and so forth. And one student said that he was impressed with how much the elders were held in regard, in South Korea, and even down to something as simple but still intricate on how meals and tea are served. All right. So this was eye-opening and life-changing. Exactly.
Eye-opening.
Right. So
and these are so the way it works is you go to Donors Choose and find opportunities,
right,
in high need.
Both ways.
Okay.
Both ways. Where I used Donors Choose, for the South Korea trip. In May, a group of students went to South Africa as well. All right, they needed supplies for that. Stepped in, boom. Okay, fully funded that. But we work outside of that Donors Choose platform as well. We had a school in Yonkers that wanted to take a couple of busloads of kids, down to the fairgrounds in Queens, in
Flushing
Meadows, Flushing Meadows Park with the iconic globe and so forth.
I used to swim in there, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Long story.
I heard. Got a superpower.
God knows what was in there, but
right. So that we funded directly. Outside that. So wherever the opportunity is. Sometimes teachers just come directly to us. All right, and they don't put whatever their need is on Donors Choose. So we just look around for those opportunities, have conversations with specific schools. With funding, the more funding you get, the more capacity you have, to help others. So we're kind of judicious as to who we talk to, which schools we talk to promote what we're doing, because there are 400 high schools in New York City alone. So,
and I know that part of being on our show is kind of expanding the reach, going into the tri-state area. What's the vision for TRIP Foundation, to have chapters all over the country? Well, how do you see it?
Well, near term, we want to obviously be able to serve the schools in the tri-state area, raise the level of awareness for them, get donors and foundations who are interested in helping schools within that region. I would love to go nationally, one day, but I think I'll do it regionally first, even before I go nationally. So if and when we move out of the New York tri-state area, I'm thinking about possibly the Northeast corridor. that Boston to DC
Right.
corridor, and then moving, westward, from
Detroit,
there. Right,
Chicago,
right, exactly.
like the major metropolitan areas
Right,
where
exactly.
there's a high need,
exactly,
disadvantaged youth.
exactly. All right, because it's not just here,
Right.
I mean, it's all over. I've even had inquiries from folks overseas as to how we could work with them to help
them
their
here.
students
Come here.
go out and see the world. No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, but I
right.
mean, you could even do the whole domestic. I mean, like taking kids to all the national parks, or
Yeah, that's right.
there's
yeah,
a
that's
lot
true.
here.
Yeah, right.
But I
exactly.
think there's also, a cultural exchange. that you're
Exactly,
experiencing.
exactly. So one of the things we like to say is help our leaders of tomorrow start building bridges today. And that reflects the mission of what we do. We want to get kids out into the world to meet people from different cultures, experience, their food, their dance, their music, whatever. Get to understand people from beyond our own borders. I mean, that's what helps makes for a more peaceful and just world.
Right,
that
we're
we
more
live
alike
in.
than
Right,
we are
exactly,
different.
absolutely.
I feel like music and food is what connects
Yeah.
cultures.
Absolutely.
Especially in Asia, there's like they play. There's salsa bands. There's
Yeah,
hip hop
yes,
bands.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
no
And
doubt.
our kids don't even realize
That's
that,
right.
that they love our culture.
That's right. That's
well.
right. That's right. All right. So imagine beginning a dialogue that's rooted in that cultural exchange to begin with. So
It's amazing.
That's our
Like
vision.
every American kid watches at least some form of anime now.
right?
Yeah. That is true. That is true.
So, Lidj, how do donors get involved? How do students get involved? Like, kind of share some of your platforms or the process.
Sure, absolutely. So, as far as donors are concerned, we have a social media presence. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, now X. We're working to, revamp our Facebook page. We get a lot of traffic, a lot of activity, a lot of awareness on LinkedIn. We're, as I mentioned earlier, I believe with Disney, we've got corporate giving access not only with Disney but also Benevity, and there are a lot of corporations that are members of Benevity, and so if any one out there whose corporation is a partner with Benevity, they can also fund us, provide us with a donation and ask their, company to step in and, match the donation that they originally gave. We also use an app called Give Freely. And so what this is that you upload, not the app, but the extension, right, into your browser, and any store that you shop online, whether it's Target, Walmart, or whatever, the extension automatically shows what percentage that company will contribute to the Trip Foundation. Once you go in and identify that the Trip Foundation is the
Your
nonprofit
cause.
that you want to contribute to. So we're trying a lot of different things, and we're also now approaching family foundations, for
The states
our
or
core.
legacy, things like that.
Yes, yeah, right, exactly, and a couple of donors have included us in their donor advised fund. Young fellow that I used to work with at ABC. Disney owns ABC, so he went to those responsible for philanthropy in that organization and told them about us, and so now we're part of that process.
Yeah, your broadcast career reminded me of Gil Noble. I used to have to watch Like It Is.
Yeah,
Back in the day. Back when I was pledging.
I remember Gil. Yeah.
Yeah, but that mission that your dad instilled in you, amplifying voices, doing good, giving back.
Right.
Amazing. I love it. I commend you.
Thank you.
We're honored to have you on the platform, and if there's any wisdom you can impart on someone out there that's at a point in their career and they want to start a nonprofit or they want to do something to do good in the world, what could you say to them?
Well, for me, and I don't mean to sound, macabre or anything like that, but I remember since I'm a history teacher, history buff, and I grew up in a household where history was important. I remember during Dr. King's funeral, it was a self eulogy, right? And there was one phrase that really resonated with me and that I hold dear even today. He said, "I don't have much money to leave behind. I just want to leave a committed life behind." All right. And so to me, that resonated and reflects my stance not only in this with the Tripp Foundation, but the previous 11 years teaching as well, and trying to inspire students and giving them the confidence that, yes, you can achieve, you can make your mark with the Tripp Foundation. There are opportunities beyond your neighborhood, beyond this country, that you are citizens of the world and not just where you live. And so that reflects, what we do. And from a business standpoint, believe in yourself, believe in your mission. The naysayers are wrong half the time, maybe even more than half the time.
So easy, no matter what business you're in, what industry, there's so many naysayers who it's easy to criticize from their armchair.
Yeah.
And the people with the boots on the ground doing the actual work.
You always say it's real difficult to make a movie, but it's real easy to be a movie critic.
Yeah, for sure. But listen, though. All right, because sometimes those naysayers could maybe it's not they're not naysaying. They're, if that's a word, right? Exactly. Listen to the feedback. Try not to make emotional decisions. Particularly as far as money is concerned. Oh, I got to spend money on this because I've got to have it because it's going to do X, Y, and Z. Pause. Now, I've had to learn that lesson, pause and see what the return could be or should be, all right? Look at the data, all right? Pay attention to the data, because sometimes, the numbers don't lie, all right? So, yeah.
Good, man. Great message. Love what you're doing. If folks want to learn more, they can go to the trippfoundation.org.
That's right, the trippfoundation.org.
Excellent. Well, Lidj, it's been an honor to have you on our show. Thanks for making the trek.
Thank you, Ramon. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Jorge, Kevin as well.
Likewise.
Can we get a horn at least to end the show with?
We'll find it.
All right. There we go. There we go. We needed that. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mission Control. Until next time, this is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands.